In response to the strike over the weekend, Iranian proxies launched 4 more attacks against U.S. bases in the region, including one in which 17 missiles were fired. So Biden may be sending a message, but these Iranian proxies and Iran at large ain't getting the message.
They're, I think, laughing at the message, John. I mean, we just got to be honest. There is no intent for these groups to stop attacking Americans. That's why I just keep beating the drums that we need to get those troops out of there, because being in Iraq and in Syria, all they're doing is being a point of strategic vulnerability to us. They're just sitting in the desert waiting until one of these 50-plus attacks since the 17th of October finally drives home and actually kills an American. And then there's going to be huge pressure on the president to expand even greater his response, probably into Iran itself. I know that Senator Graham is a big proponent of that. And then you have the chance of escalating the war even higher, because Iran will definitely do something in retaliation before that. So these are not going to deter them. These strikes that we've been doing, these very small pinprick, they need to get our troops out of harm's way and put them somewhere more defensible in the region.
All right. So as far as banging the drum, I guess we could call you John Bonham. But Keith Moon, who is General Jack Keane, has been banging the drum as well. I want to play you something that he said on Fox and Friends, and then John Kirby's response when we spoke to him in our last hour. Listen here.
It's not comprehensive enough just dealing with the proxies themselves. What am I talking about? Go after the leaders, go after the fighters, go after the rockets, missiles, drones, go after all the logistical infrastructure. Do it all at once in one night. That's well within U.S. strike capability. No risk to a single pilot in doing that. That, I think, may get their attention.
We'll go after targets that we believe are going to actually have an opportunity here to degrade the IRGC's ability to resource and fund and provide material to these groups. And those targets that we hit over the weekend do exactly that. Training facility, headquarters facility. We know that in one of them, they were actually using it to store weapons.
I followed up with Kirby after that, Lieutenant Colonel, and said, but it hasn't stopped them from doing it. So they may be degrading their capabilities, but they're certainly not bending their will.
It's not degrading anything. It's not like these groups are just going to these warehouses to get what they need for an attack. They've got these things spread out throughout the region. There's plenty of places they can get ammunition and weapons from. That's never been a problem. This won't do anything. They're small scale. But I got to say, I take definite issue with General Keane. I got to say, because what he's suggesting has a much higher probability of causing an escalation of the war, not a diminution of the war. Because, look, they already know that we don't want to go in there. But Kirby said it right there. Biden says it all the time. We don't want a wider war. So they know that they can continue doing this because they do want a wider war. They do want something that can cause the United States to come in not too big. They don't think we're going to get sucked into a full war, because they know that Biden said he doesn't want that. But they do want something like what Keane says, because then that will explode the area against the West, and even more so against Israel. It is not in our favor. It is not in our interest to risk a wider war. And not just keeping our troops there, John. It's just going to get somebody killed pointlessly.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, just in terms of a wider war. I mean, who would be involved in a wider war? Because Saudi Arabia doesn't want to have anything to do with a wider war. They've actually been shooting down some Houthi missiles that have been heading toward Israel. I'm told that, they're sitting on the sidelines here because they have to, but they're just waiting for Hamas to be decapitated. Then they'll get back into negotiations with Israel on the Abraham Accords. Jordan certainly doesn't want to get into the war. Israel doesn't want to get into the war. The UAE, Oman, probably Qatar, Bahrain, obviously, there's U.S. forces in Bahrain. They don't want to get in. So, I mean, we're talking about Iran, Syria, Lebanon. But shouldn't the U.S. be able to, as Ronald Reagan did, as Donald Trump did, say to the mullahs in Iran, we're going to hit you hard, because Reagan attacked oil platforms. Reagan attacked IRGC bases. President Trump took out Qasem Soleimani. Can't they say to Iran, you want no part of this, so call your dogs off?
That's what we would like to be the case, John. But you saw, actually, Reagan's a great example. He pulled our troops out of Lebanon instead of expanding into it. But you do have Syria. You do have Hezbollah. Those are big problems right now. Could be a huge problem for Israel. And to just write them off, I think, is not doing Israel any favors.
But they'll only go. But they'll only go if Iran.
You just don't know where it's going.
But they'll only go if Iran says go. And if you tell Iran this is going to have serious consequences for you if you pull that trigger, they may not pull that trigger.
That assumes that that's not what Iran wants, that they don't want to expand it. And I think that they do want to have a limited expansion because that actually helps their side.